Hello pilots, welcome to Thursday morning, video number 2 for the week. We are flying the I-250, considered I think by most to be a disappointment in the MiG line up until this point, especially after the great plane that is the I-220. And I've struggled with it, but I've kind of gotten it flying where I've started to enjoy it a good bit. And this is one of the matches that pivoted it for me, so I wanted to share it with you and talk a little bit about the plane itself. First of all, I'm going to be a good teammate here. Remember the last time we were on this map and we had a teammate who went after the same plane as us? Notice how I don't do that here. We have a guy flying in the Heavy, the new Japanese Heavy from the Marathon, which some of you may have picked up this past weekend. And if so, you get to see a little bit of that here in the background. But I notice he's looming in on one, and I know also that there's a second heavy air defense aircraft and that these guys work in pairs. And so, of course, as you can see here, the other Heavy is looping onto my friendly pilot's tail. And so rather than double tap his target, I'm going to let him go for his target. I'm going to keep his tail clear. And then that way we're going to get 2 birds down in the same amount of time that we would otherwise have taken 1 down. And you'll notice it takes a little bit of time, which is the setup on these guns. There's a 37 hub gun and then the 23 secondary guns. This is going to be a common setup for the MiG line. It's where the MiG line ends. It's what the MiG-15 had. If you have the JLA, Chinese Tier 8 Premium, same setup, right? And this plane in a lot of ways is a trainer for the rest of the MiG line, I feel like. So this gun combo can be difficult to use, especially if you have not flown the P-39 Premiums, sitting down at Tier 6, either the Russian one or the US one, both of which are fine aircraft. But this setup is a little strange if you haven't done that, or some of the Yak line uses as well. The Yak 3T does, which is part of why I love this setup so much. There's a great deal of firepower in it, but the reason I say this plane is a training wheels for that is the JLA and the Tier 9 and Tier 10 MiGs have the same gun setup, but with a 3-second overheat time. And it's really hard to get what you want out of these guns in 3 seconds, as you can see here. The I-250 actually has 5 seconds of overheat time. So they're putting the training wheels on, they're putting the baby wheels on, right? Just getting used to it. You got 5 seconds rather than 3. You really get a feel for those guns, get them dialed in so they do what you want them to do. I almost feel like you want to treat the 37 millimeter, if you played any first-person shooters, treat it like a semi-automatic rifle. Treat it like a DMR, like an SKS or something like that. You tap in the button. You're not holding it down for full auto, you're tapping it. And you keep tapping it pretty regularly, but just tap it, right? And that'll get you out the shots that you need. And it does, as you can see, do a lot of damage when it connects. You just want to make sure it connects. This is another great example of that. I've got a great angle, a great arc. I can just dump some shells in, and he's gone, right? When that 37 hits, it hits quite hard. It's not a sniper cannon, but it has some pretty similar damage potential for it. So I originally had this plane set up to be a turn fighter. It's already got, as you can see, a rocket in the butt, kind of like the LA-9 on the Tech Tree does, and a prop engine in the front. And so I thought, well, you got plenty of speed there. I'm going to set it up for some maneuver fighting, right, for some turn fighting, because it is just in that range of uncomfortable in terms of the 360 turn time. And I played the first, I don't know how many matches that way, and it was really frustrating. And what I realized is, although you do have a jet, it's a primitive jet engine, although you have a piston, the propeller, it's still a propeller at Tier 8, right? So where this plane really shines is actually when you build it for speed. Don't worry too much about it. Utilize the fact that it has a very high altitude regimen and just fly it as an energy fighter. Put it high up in the sky, dive on things like I've done for a couple of these kills, both the F7F and the IL-10. And then you get a feel for those guns, tap firing them in. And you can see, even though I have no maneuver stuff on it, the rudder control is really good. Arcing over like that at the top of a dive or the bottom of a dive feels really good. And so when you do that, you do have pretty solid. You're not going to win any turn fights, but it's enough to get the job done, right? It's comfortable enough. And you can say I'm on the tail of that Japanese Heavy from the Premium. We need a nickname for this guy. I don't have one. If you have one, put a suggestion in the comments what you think this Japanese Heavy should be called. The Key 94. With its super massive guns. But you can see not much of a chance there, and that's one of the downsides of that Heavy, especially against Tier 8 light fighters, is it can get hunted. Not that I was headhunting him in particular, but just clearing the zone. And as you can see, it's 5 garrisons. This is great. This is a nice casual match. Honestly, I think everything in period 1, so tiers 1 through 4 of the game, should always be all garrison maps. Up at this tier, at tier 8, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, although I'll take it. I'm very happy to have it, where you can kind of, play the match as opposed to having to, discern particular strategies for what zone to capture next. Just go capture a zone, and you're doing good, right? Again, there's that diving attack, by the way. So I think, if period 1, if tiers 1 through 4 was all garrisons, imagine how much easier it would be for new pilots to learn the game, to just be able to fly around and say, oh, go cap a zone. It doesn't matter which zone. If it's red, go take it. If it's blue, go defend it, right? And then in the later periods, begin to teach the mechanics around mining plants, command centers, and all of that. And honestly, I would even wait on some of that for period 3, right? As the periods ramp up, as the tiers ramp up, the complexity of the map ramps up with it. That'd be a wonderful training regimen for new players, be super helpful. So again, I'm just doing diving attacks, and look at that. The speed stays super high. It's really easy to get up to top speed now that I've fitted it out with, all speed gear. Basically, I've got the upgraded engine and the polished skin. Just enjoying how much retention you get in it, and how well it does, especially up at some higher altitudes. The camouflage I have on it right now is the Parade camo. It's the Alpha Beta camo. It's plus 5% experience, and I am grinding the line. I do not have the MiG-9 or the MiG-15 yet, so this is my first rodeo with a 250. I didn't fly it in 1X, and just purchased it. I think I bought it maybe at the beginning of 2.0, but really didn't do anything with it. It was not a line I had a great deal of desire to purchase, but it's really started to grow on me with this plane. Honestly, the 220 is a great plane, but it's 420s. It does lots of things well. It's not an interesting plane. This is an interesting plane. It has interesting guns, interesting flight profile, interesting engine setup. Heck, it looks interesting. It looks like a little stunt fighter that belongs in the circus as opposed to a frontline Soviet aircraft, right? So it's just been really intriguing, and I'm kind of interested to get up into the MiG-9 and the MiG-15 and play them. And I think once I finish this and move into the MiG-9, I'm going to start playing my JLA a little bit and see if I can't, continue to work on this gun setup and really making it work for me. So we'll see how that goes, because the MiG-15 is an iconic aircraft, and so it does have that going for it. And of course, the unusual gun setup gives you a little skill training. Great, that's what you want, right? You want to improve on things. So anyway, as I said, I've enjoyed this aircraft. It's been really good, and as you can see in the background, we are doing a heck of a job here. We're actually flying against that Ki 94. We have a Ki 94 on our team, so we have a balance there. And then my Tier 8 light fighter on the other side is actually a Tier 8 Tempest. So, just by looking at the stat sheet, I would have told you, all things being equal, the other team should have won. That Tempest is a great multi-role. It can cap, can move around the map pretty good. As a light fighter with finicky guns at the best of times, I think probably is a fair statement, although I enjoy them. He should be able to cap faster than I can cap, right? And so we're outpacing them at this point. That feels really good. In case you're wondering, can I bomber hunt with this guy? I wouldn't recommend it. I did try it with an RB-17, another video I recorded, and it just didn't work out. There's just too many hit points to burn away. There's too long of a cooldown time. You have to be really disciplined about pulsing that trigger, right? Or it just doesn't happen. So 15K in the match, that's pretty darn good. We'll take it any day of the week, and we'll take the victory alongside it. So I think my ultimate point on the lineups is, sometimes it's not the plane and it's not the pilot. It's how you use the plane, right? When planes are being used for what they've been designed by wargaming to be used for, not necessarily their historical status, but what they're supposed to be good at in game, and use it for those things. Typically speaking, for most of these planes, it's going to end up pretty good. It's going to be a great, you're going to do well in it. But if you take the plane and try and do something that it's not designed to do, that's when you get yourself in trouble, and things can go downhill in a hurry, which is an improvement over 1.X. 1.X, multi-roles in particular, you had to fly them as light fighters. You just didn't have a choice. You were handicapping yourself and your team if you didn't fly them as a light fighter. Now, in 2.0, they've come into their own, right? And I think Corvus and I touched on this in the last video, but they really do have a role within the game. It's actually fairly strong and fun to play. which is why if you look at my profile, you see a lot of multi-rolls in the top 10. So I finished up Wild Hunt on this one, which is awesome. I got 10 tokens. That's a fairly easy one. You're just running USSR and UK aircraft. So I was like, great, 10 tokens for that. I'm in. Had 16 kills, captured 4 sectors. I'm just flying around the map capping stuff, right? And you can see the 17 crits there, and the 6,000 damage. When you get these guns dialed in like I have on this aircraft, it just feels good, man. It just feels good to chunk away that HP from the aircraft and do well. Now, so why is this considered a disappointment in the line at Tier 8? Because there's other aircraft at Tier 8 that are far superior. When you're looking at what do I take out at Tier 8, and your options are, Spitfire 14s and Messerschmitt 262s and the BP that I briefly faced off against, right? And the Yak 15 for that kind of close-in circle work. And man, you go, there's better options at Tier 8 than this aircraft. And I think that's 100% true. There are better aircraft at Tier 8 than this one is, and so does need to be taken into account. But it's still not a bad plane. It's actually a fairly good one, and I think it does a couple of different things well. And that's really what the MiG line was introduced to the game to provide the USSR aircraft with an altitude line. The LA line is a mixed breed. The Yak line is close-in turn fighters. This was supposed to be the altitude line for the USSR, and I think originally the goal was for each country to have a turn fighter line, a hybrid line, and an energy fighter line. And of course, with the way things came to be with World War planes, we didn't get that. But I think that was the original goal, and this was supposed to be the altitude energy fighter line. So that's the other thing that suffers, is because energy fighting takes patience. It takes a little bit of skill. It's hard to learn. And so sometimes you get to this level and you're finally at Tier 8, and just circling doesn't work anymore. And you gotta start to dive into those more advanced tactics on how to use it. So, but I think it is a rewarding plane and a fun plane, and I wanted to show it to you today. And again, this is just a great match. There's a lot of action going on in the background, a lot of knockdowns there. Perfect for a Thursday morning. So, hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I do have a bonus video for you this weekend. It's not actually a World of Warplanes video. I'm going to toss you something else into the mix and see what you think of it. And not to say that I'm transitioning out of this by any means, but I thought it might be fun every once in a while to have a bonus video, a third video of the week that was something a little different, whether that's a third Warplanes video or a third video that's a different game of some sort. But hope you'll enjoy it. Hope you'll let me know what you think of it. Hope you'll let me know what you thought of this video. Feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of the I-250. Let me know what you think of the 37 millimeter and double 23 millimeter gun setup that's so prevalent on some of these planes. Does it work for you, or do you struggle with it? And kind of where you're at. Do you have the MiG-15? Do you enjoy it? Any tips for me when I get there? Because like I said, I'm still climbing that line. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And again, if you see me in the game, feel free to throw me a flight invite, or just send me a little chat message, and happy to say hi and encourage you and see how things are going. So keep flying, keep having fun, and I will catch you in the next video.